Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Political Talk to JB. I'm your host, Julian Boykin, and tonight I am joined by Dr. Will Boyd, candidate for governor of Alabama. Dr. Boyd, how are we doing tonight?
I'm fine, sir. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing great. How's the campaign going?
It's going well. We're traveling the state, trying to hit every county we can. Of course, the primary is May 19th, but I am everywhere talking to everybody about my plan with these three pillars that I hope to share sometime tonight with you. And hopefully people will get out and vote for me, and I'll be the next governor of the state of Alabama.
Will said, tell everybody a little bit about your background and what's gotten you wanting to run for governor.
Well, generally speaking, I'm a person who's been raised as a servant leader. I've, by degree, been trained to be a mechanical engineer. I'm an MBA, which means a Master of Business Administration. Have doctorates in religion, organizational management, and leadership, even in psychology from a Christian worldview point of view. I've served in and outside the United States in engineering, management, and even ministerial roles. I've served as an engineer, operations manager, a quality manager. I've served as an elected official. I've served as a pastor of a 166-year-old church, as a presiding bishop to churches worldwide. Of course, you know, I'm part of a wonderful organization, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Served in a number of roles there, including bossless, vice bossless, and also keeper of records and seal. Long story short, my career has been about service. I've served on hospital boards. I've served in my community. I've served in a number of locations around the world, but I'm running for governor because I want every Alabamian to have a shot at the American dream. I want everybody to be able to own that home, everybody to be able to understand what it means to work hard and to be able to play hard, to have their children to be raised in an environment that is safe. But I'm looking for an expansion of our economy. I'm looking for healthcare that's truly accessible, and I'm looking to stabilize our communities all across Alabama.
When we talk about healthcare in rural areas, what is your plan on trying to expand that? I know it's a sensitive subject for a lot of people, and it's not as cut and dry as most people would think it is.
I was in Pickens County last night, and of course, my second time there in less than 7 days. Pickens County has a small location. I would call it a medical center where, of course, there is a nurse practitioner there. A person could probably go in and make sure they have a checkup performed. But long story short, Pickens County is one of those counties that does not have a hospital right now. So it is a shame in 2026 that in rural areas there are no hospitals. If someone is hurt, as the case was a few weeks ago in one of the counties I was visiting, someone's car turned over multiple times. They had quite a few teeth knocked out, ribs that obviously were broken, and they had to be given the choice of phoning a friend by the fire department, a friend to drive them 1 hour to the nearest hospital. So when you look at Lawrence County, you're going to Huntsville or Birmingham. When you look at Pickens, you're going into Mississippi. Yes, out of Alabama County is looking going to Mississippi to get help or going towards Tuscaloosa. Butler County doesn't have a hospital. I can keep going on and on and on. But one of the things that we can do to fix this problem is simply expand Medicaid. And when you look at the cost of that expansion versus the return on it, there should be no question why we have not done it yet. But for many reasons unknown to me, Alabama has not done it. We're looking at basically a $228 million cost to expand Medicaid in Alabama. With the Affordable Care Act in play, 90% of that cost would be taken care of. So just doing nice, clean numbers, you're talking about a $22.8 million investment. The return on it is $394 million. You're seeing where $2 billion of new revenue would come into Alabama. 200,000 people would be employed. And most importantly, Mr. Borkin, you're looking at 282,696 people who are not with healthcare right now will all of a sudden be covered. So when you look at all of the financial benefits it brings, including stopping 26 hospitals in rural and urban areas from closing, you have to ask yourself, why hasn't the governor or anyone in the legislature push much harder on this. I'll just wrap it up by saying, as it relates to hospitals, Alabama is one of those states that has a high infant mortality rate, a high maternal mortality rate. We have people who are far away from hospitals, but not only that, over 314,000 Alabamians are in what we call ambulatory deserts, which means, as I said, with the person whose car rolled, they have to phone a friend to drive them an hour. Or if an ambulance is available, like Pickens County, they have an ambulance now. That ambulance could pick them up, but you're still talking about a 1 hour drive. So when a person has a cardiac arrest, heart attack, stroke, paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, whatever it may be, they collapse and seconds matter. You need a life flight, really. You need a helicopter to come in. You're so far away in a remote area with no major hospital, you're in trouble. Our hospitals in Alabama are struggling. Some estimates would reveal that about 26% of our hospitals are operating in the red, and that's mainly because of uncompensated care. So you have a lot of people who are coming in, of course, without insurance, who are trying to get treatment. And as they come in, that cost continues to make it harder and harder for hospitals to exist. Full transparency, though, a lot of people love to say, well, it's because of people who are outside the country that are putting a drain on the hospitals or the resources, when that's a very, very, very small percentage and is really not factored into the equation like people believe. So the biggest thing we can do, again, is expand Medicaid, and that will take care of a lot of our people. But it's not just that. We need mental health services provided in a greater way as well. I believe when we do this in 2027, it's going to put Alabama in a whole nother place. You're going to have a stronger and healthier workforce. You're going to have communities that are more stable simply because you have health care that's truly accessible and affordable to all.
When we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about farmers, or you have a lot of farmers in Alabama that's getting out of the business and selling their land to commercial developers. So they're building houses, retail development, things of that nature, but it's killing our food source, and it's making us look at outsourcing for food. And we don't
Mhm.
know where this food is coming from. We don't know if it's homegrown, lab grown, things of that nature. How do we recruit and educate and entice our younger generation to get them to go into farming, into entrepreneurship, where they can bring these crops and the farms back to Alabama, so we can start feeding the people of Alabama healthier food?
Well, just like I mentioned, the fact that we have 314,000 in an ambulatory desert, we have many, many who are in food deserts. As you well know, particularly in rural areas, low income areas, about the best thing that can happen for a community is perhaps their Dollar General becomes a Dollar General grocery model where they have some fresh fruits and vegetables available. There are no grocery stores. Some of the areas that I was in last night, you might drive 9 or 10 miles and then you find a convenience store. You find again a Dollar General. You find maybe a drugstore. You find a gas station with a food mark, but you're not going to find where there are green, red, yellow fruits and vegetables that are available. So that this is a real issue. I talked to some young future farmers of America this week and explained to them how Alabama is a very biodiverse state. There's a lot we can do as it relates to agriculture. Now, there are a lot of crops that we can actually have across our state of Alabama, but I would love it if we would see, especially in areas like the Black Belt, the wiregrass, see where we have more investment, more incentives available for particularly small farmers, small farm owners who are interested in land. Now, if I could just segue into another point, I would say very quickly, one of the biggest destroyers of African American wealth is what I talked about already, healthcare cost, but also as it relates to land. So a lot of African Americans are finding themselves in places where they don't have clear titles on the land that they're actually working. You have commercial people coming in, of course, to buy land, and of course, you mentioned earlier, set up new housing developments or communities. That also hurts us from an environmental point of view because the less green space we have, the less places for water to penetrate the ground. When you start building more asphalt jungles or putting more concrete down the ground, you're also setting us up to experience problems with runoff issues, erosion issues, and so much more. So one of the things I'm running into across the state in Huntsville, sometimes in Mobile, and even in between, we're talking about affordability of houses, of course, but we're also talking about the fact that as you just start bringing in more residential communities without thought to the environment, without regard to the footprint you leave behind, their concerns. We're even talking about farms, some in some cases being made solar farms, and while that sounds like it's embracing the green economy, in reality, you would love to be able to turn over that soil and keep having renewable crops planted and bringing forth fruit or yield. But when you talk about dropping a solar farm even on dirt on top of soil, you're limiting production. Why not put that over an asphalt parking lot and allow cars to park under them? Why not put it on top of buildings in places where, of course, they are not blocked, no obstructions? I think we have to think about Alabama in a whole different way. So I'm always approaching the environmental point of view from a perspective of water, of air, of land, and even tying our economic engine into our environmental approach to doing what we're talking about right now, being good stewards of the earth. So, yes, we need to incentivize people who work with small farmers. We need to encourage people to get involved with FFA, Future Farmers of America, young people in high school and junior high school. We need to encourage people to understand what it means to be a farmer in Alabama, uh, give people more opportunities to learn from an educational point of view what the government does as it relates to farming, how farmers play a critical role in feeding America, not just Alabama. And as people are exposed to it, I think they'll be more apt to get involved.
You mentioned your three pillars. Is community one of your pillars?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. You know, you have to have strong communities in order to have the ability to really see people go out and go to work and do well. My community pillar addresses a number of things. One of the basic things that I think we have to address is not just a hospital in our communities, but good schools in our communities, equity across zip codes. Right now, I would love to see that we have an educational lottery in place that could bring in anywhere from 800 million to $1 billion to our educational trust fund that would not be rated for other purposes. Of course, in that educational lottery money that is going there from this from this particular effort, I would also include mental health services or wraparound services in case there are any people who may fall through the cracks and have some type of addiction as it relates to gambling. But for the most part, this will allow every zip code to experience the same amount of revenues needed to actually succeed. They can choose what they want to do with the money, the local superintendents, but it's money that's going to allow the schools in the Wiregrass and the Black Belt to look more like the schools in Huntsville or Mountain Brook or Hoover. So that's what we want to see, the opportunities for everyone to succeed. Right now, what we're experiencing is also brain drain instead of brain gain. So we want teachers to also receive equitable pay. I've talked to some people who've moved from different states. One person told me that his wife moved from Florida to become a teacher in Alabama, and she had to take a $50,000 pay cut. Now that's sad. $50,000 for the place I was last night is the household income for many people. And for some, it's not even that high with two people working. So when you talk about teachers, the ones who educate the farmers, the one who educates the future lawyers, the doctors, the engineers, the future credit union owners, the future bank owners, they need to be the ones who are enjoying what they do, not going into zones where they have to learn how to shoot a gun or be prepared for a gun violence incident, but at the same time, feel like they have to take a hit doing a job that is, in my mind, essential work, critical needs work, We need teachers on the front lines, but we need to reward them for their service. So I would love to see a public service loan forgiveness program for them. Maybe we relieve them of $15,000 of debt a year every year they stay in those roles teaching in Alabama. We have to, again, stop the drain of brains, so to speak. Drain, brain gain is what we want instead. We also want to see where we have vocational opportunities available. So when a person graduates from high school or is approaching their junior and senior years, they already need to know or can have the opportunity to go into an apprenticeship when they finish, become part of organized labor if they so desire, choose to go to college, and with this educational lottery in place, know that their educational journey has already been paid for. Right now, whether we choose to enjoy the lottery or not, I've never played. I'm not a person who goes and plays the lottery, but right now there are so many Alabamians who do this that we're basically funding the education of children who are in Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. Why not give Alabamians an opportunity to succeed? Why not let our young people be on level playing ground? So there's a whole lot more. But one of the big thing I'll throw out is that by 2027, I want 97% of the state covered in broadband. It's sad that we have to see our kids go to Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, or some other restaurant just to get onto a wireless network or to have the ability to get to some URL to do work. Every child needs to have equal opportunities to succeed in Alabama, and that's one of the ways we do this. Community includes prison reform and overhaul, making sure people who are coming out of prisons are in a stabilized position. Perhaps there's the ability for them to go into some type of housing. We're not giving anything away, but making sure that when they get out, they know what they need to do to avoid recidivism. One in every three people coming out of the Alabama Department of Corrections is right now going back. That's a bad recidivism number. So we need our communities stable by making sure, again, the people who are re-entering are there to stay and not to go back to prison. Again, there are a lot of things that can help our community out. I've talked about Rabbit, my rapid bus transit system. I've talked about beginning to lay the foundation and tracks for what we call high-speed rail so that up and down 65, people can perhaps work in Huntsville, but they can actually live in perhaps Mobile, or maybe you can actually jump up on a Saturday morning in Birmingham, go shop in Mobile and come back, maybe go shop in Huntsville and come back, or maybe we work with Georgia and you can leave Birmingham and actually be at the airport rather than taking a. I mean, I know we appreciate grooms, shuttle services, and people driving us back and forth, but we have to start thinking globally. Same way we want to incentivize young people who want to go into farming and agricultural opportunities. We need to also incentivize creativity. We need to make sure that we're doing what it takes to help our small businesses to succeed not only within the state, but intrastate, outside the state, and even internationally. So these are things and ways we can strengthen our communities.
Can you talk about the other two pillars as well for the people?
Yeah, yes, sir. The first one is the economy. So it's economy, healthcare, and community. The economy is depending on where you are. Some could argue there's a low employment rate. They might say 2.7% compared to previous years, or maybe in the Birmingham metro area, you might say it's closer to 2.2%. But what you're running into is there's a strain on the workforce pool, if you would. We need workforce development. We need, of course, healthier people in the workforce. Of course, when we don't have expansion of Medicaid, when we don't have health care opportunities for people to get out and get to a hospital, when people don't have a job to get telehealth services, you have an unhealthy workforce. But we also have a problem that we don't have the right people with the right skill sets to go into the jobs that are being created. So it's one thing to have tax abatement or tax increment financing, attract businesses to come to Alabama. But it's another thing to say, you know what, instead of these businesses transplanting people from another state, or them training their own people from another location to come in and work. Let's train the people that are in the community. Let's partner with the local colleges, the community colleges, organized labor, whoever it may be in the region. And let's make sure the people who live there have an opportunity to work there first. So these are the things that are important as it relates to the economy. Again, workforce development. Now, there's a whole lot more, but let me shift obviously into healthcare again. Healthcare is important. Uh, One more time, when you have a healthy workforce, the community is better stabilized. So they all go hand in hand. You want jobs to be available. You want the jobs to provide healthcare opportunities, insurance coverage opportunities, but also you want to make sure within the communities, people are able to invest back into it, to go back into stable communities where the violence is not there, where the crime is not high, where people are in communities they feel safe and stabilized. And again, it's all cyclical. So economy, healthcare, community.
If people want to get in contact with you, make a donation to your campaign, how can they do so?
They can go to drwillboy.com and they can learn more about my campaign, but particularly there is a donate button that is there. They can find any platform there that would help them to donate. By that I mean they might see an opportunity to donate through Zelle, through Cash App, and many others. Apple Pay, Google Pay, it's all there. So again, it's drwillboyd.com, drwillboyd.com, and then navigate to donate. There's even opportunity to donate via ActBlue for those who know what that is as well. So I invite people to do that. I want to throw in a shameless plug at this time, if I can, and talk about my wheel bills as we're talking about money and currency, if you don't mind. We've been passing out these wheel bills everywhere. And if I could, I just want to share with everybody that there is another platform component that I talk about relating to just feeling safe in Alabama. Uh, Safe relates to having the security of justice, the security of jobs, accessibility of healthcare, as I talked about, that is affordable, finding fairness in your communities, opportunities to, as I said earlier, have equity across zip codes, to find jobs that are competitive to other states, to be able to find education that is affordable, if not paid for by the state. Through the educational lottery. But then the E on the back relates to everyone. This particular bill that I have is just saying that everybody has one voice. I really appreciate the donations. I would love people to donate. There's no limit in what people can give. But more importantly, I want people to know this is about everyone taking a part. The reason why a campaign needs dollars is to get on television or to spread the message across the state. We are spreading our message with the help of volunteers with these wheel bills. We still have other push cars that we use. We still have yard signs. We have buttons. We have even bow ties because it's been said I'm more than a bishop with a bow tie. We have bow ties, plastic bow ties we give people. We're creative. We're out there with the merch, but the wheel bills are everywhere. We're trying to tell people again in a nice, fun, light way that it's about people power and not money power. So please send me all the money you can. Uh, I'll put people to work in the campaign in your communities. But the main thing I would really love for people to do is to give me their vote on May 19th, vote for me, and to help me be a voice to move Alabama forward.
Last question. Why should the people of Alabama vote for you as the next governor?
I'm going to say something I've never said publicly before. I am a public servant. I'm someone who believes in humility. I always put everybody first, but I believe I'm a smart and a competent person who is capable of leading Alabama forward. If you visit my website, if you watch me on Thursdays at 10 a.m., you'll see that I roll out a plan for almost everything on the minds of Alabamians. I don't just tell people what we can do. I tell people how we're going to do it. I'm an engineer also by training. I've talked to you about my managerial experience, my leadership experience. I know people are excited about big time names and what people have done in the past. I've made history. My name is on a historical marker in North Alabama. I've been the first this and the first that, but I don't go around talking about that because we can't drive forward keeping our eyes focused on the rearview mirror. Those things are all wonderful, but we need new, young, bold leadership that's going to lead Alabama forward, and that's what I believe I bring to the table. Now, I'm 55 years old this July, but compared to most people who are in office right now in Alabama and in the United States federal government, I'm just a young man. So I believe it's time for a new generation of leadership. We're living in a place right now where, yes, we could talk about jobs, economy, and healthcare, but if you aren't discussing AI, if you aren't discussing the good or bad about data centers, if you don't have on your mind issues that relate to perhaps Bitcoin or the next bit of currency that may be coming one way or the other, you're behind. So this is a different world. You have a different, you know, this being in the media, the news cycle just changes by the minute, not the day. And so you need a governor who is willing to be humble, but also at the same time recognize that it takes a level of intelligence to get this done and competence to make this happen. I'm giving you a long answer, but I want people to understand it's beyond me just spewing policy out. I have a plan. I've laid out plans for 30, 60, 90, 180, and even 360 days in office. Matter of fact, my prison and parole plan concludes with a 360-day plan of me having a dashboard where people can see who's in the pipeline for parole, how many prisoners are, we call them incarcerated citizens, are behind bars and on any given day. What facilities have educational programs or wraparound mental health services? Letting people know just key things that are important to them moving forward. I have a plan to make sure on day one we put councils in place for the economy, an economic council, a health council, and even a community council. I have plans to make sure, even executive orders already written right to my left of me, that we can float right now that can move Alabama forward. So this is not a game for me. This is not anything I'm seeking to do so that my name is in lights or I get famous. I'm just trying to help every Alabamian have a shot at the American dream.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Will Boyd, candidate for governor of Alabama. Dr. Boyd, best of luck for you and your campaign. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I really enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know anybody that is running for office, please have them reach out to me. I'm not hard to find. Area code 256-701-0464. Doesn't matter if it's in the state of Alabama or any other state for that matter. I'm here to serve the people across the United States, and this is a way to promote voter education and get people to understanding that, hey, door knocking still works. However, we have to embrace technology, and this is one way we embrace technology as it relates to educating people on who is campaigning for their vote so they can see which candidate best in line with their core values. Dr. Boyd, as always, it's a pleasure, and I'll
Thank you
definitely
so
see you
much,
on the
sir.
campaign trail.
Yes,
Thank
sir. I
you.
appreciate all you're doing. Thank you for your service.
No problem. You have a great night.
You too, sir.